Montego Bay, Jamaica, a place where golden sands meet the turquoise embrace of the Caribbean Sea, where reggae melodies float through the air, and where luxury resorts cater to the desires of the elite. Tourists come here for relaxation, but beneath the shimmering surface of paradise, secrets thrive. Among those who walked the fine line between indulgence and deception were Dwayne and Simone Richards, a couple whose wealth and status made them untouchable, yet whose lifestyle made them infamous among the right circles. Dwayne and Simone were the embodiment of success. He was a high-profile real estate developer, known for transforming prime Jamaican coastline into opulent resorts and high-end villas. She was the owner of an exclusive boutique, catering to the fashion-forward elite. Together, they moved like royalty, attending private yacht parties, rubbing shoulders with celebrities, and living a life most could only dream of. But behind the picture-perfect marriage, there was something darker. A world of exclusive parties, secret desires, and unspoken rules. Their marriage wasn't conventional, and that was by design. The Richards had long been part of Jamaica's underground swinger community, a secret society where discretion was valued as much as pleasure. It wasn't just about sex. It was about power, control, and feeding the insatiable need for something more. To the outside world, Dwayne and Simone were a loving, enviable couple, but those in their inner circle knew the truth. Their mansion, perched on the cliffs overlooking the Caribbean, was not just a home but a playground for the elite. Lavish parties, whispered invitations, and the thrill of new encounters. It was all part of their carefully curated life. Rules had been established early on. No emotional attachments, no secrets, and above all, loyalty to each other. They believed they had mastered the art of indulgence without consequence. But even the most well-crafted games have a breaking point. Unlike the loud and open swinger culture of places like Miami or Las Vegas, Jamaica's underground scene was one of secrecy. Membership was exclusive, with only the most influential and trusted individuals allowed entry. Dwayne and Simone were not just participants, they were key players. Their presence at a party instantly elevated its status. They had their favorites, of course. Other couples, exotic guests flown in for the weekend, and discreet liaisons that never lasted beyond a night. But they had also begun to grow restless. The game that once thrilled them now felt predictable. Dwayne craved the thrill of domination, of bending others to his will. Simone, on the other hand, longed for passion, something that went beyond just pleasure, a dangerous craving in a world built on control. And then came the night that changed everything. It started at one of their exclusive, invite-only parties at a private beach villa. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and the air was thick with temptation. Among the guests was Andre Morrison, a young, ambitious bartender with the kind of charm that could make any woman forget her marriage. He was lean, confident, and dangerously attractive. Exactly the kind of thrill Simone secretly desired. Dwayne had noticed Simone's lingering gaze, the way her laughter was just a bit too genuine in Andre's presence. But he wasn't worried. He had always been the one in control. What he didn't realize was that this time, the game was about to turn against him. As the night stretched into the early hours, Simone found herself drawn to Andre in ways she couldn't explain. Unlike the other men who had come and gone from their bed, Andre had an edge, a rawness that made her feel alive. Their connection was electric, a slow-burning fire that threatened to consume her. For the first time in their marriage, Simone felt something she wasn't supposed to feel. Desire turned to obsession. Obsession turned to secrets. And secrets, in their world, were the beginning of destruction. What started as just another indulgence would soon unravel into a scandal of passion, betrayal, and murder. One that would shake Montego Bay to its core. The golden sunrise spilled over the cliffs of Montego Bay, illuminating the crystal-clear waters below. To most, it was another peaceful morning in paradise. But inside the lavish Richards estate, a storm was brewing beneath the surface. A storm neither Dwayne nor Simone could see coming. Simone sat on the balcony of their mansion, sipping a freshly brewed espresso. Her thoughts, however, were far from the view in front of her. They lingered on the events of the previous night. More specifically, on him, Andre Morrison. The young bartender had left an impression that was impossible to shake. He was unlike the men who usually passed through their carefully curated world. He had no wealth, no influence, no grand reputation. But he had charisma, an intoxicating energy that pulled her in. And the way he had looked at her, not as a trophy, not as Dwayne's wife, but as a woman, sent shivers down her spine. Dwayne noticed the shift in Simone's demeanor over the next few days. He prided himself on always being one step ahead, on understanding every move before it was made. He had seen the way Simone looked at Andre, but he wasn't worried. He saw it as harmless fun. After all, their lifestyle was built on controlled temptation. They had seen this happen before. A new player would enter the game, sparks would fly, and then, like clockwork, the thrill would fade. Their rules ensured that nothing ever became serious. So, when Simone mentioned that she was meeting a friend for drinks at an upscale lounge, Dwayne didn't question it. What he didn't know was that Andre was waiting for her. That evening, Simone walked into Moonlight Lounge, an exclusive bar frequented by Montego Bay's elite. She had texted Andre earlier, a simple invitation that he had eagerly accepted. As she slid into the private booth, Andre's eyes drank her in. She was stunning, dressed in a sleek black dress that clung to her curves. He smirked. Didn't think you'd actually show. Simone tilted her head, her lips curling into a smile. I like surprises. The conversation started light, teasing, playful. But as the drinks flowed, so did their confessions. I know who you are, Andre said, swirling his rum in his glass. The powerful, untouchable Simone Richards. She raised an eyebrow. And what does that mean to you? It means, Andre leaned in, his voice dropping, that for a woman who has everything, you seem dangerously unsatisfied. His words hit harder than she expected. For the first time, Simone felt seen. She reached for her drink, but Andre caught her wrist, his fingers lightly tracing her skin. Tell me something, he murmured. What happens when someone breaks the rules? She exhaled sharply. They don't. Andre smirked. Then let's see how long you last. Simone should have left. She should have walked away before things spiraled out of control. But as Andre's hand slid over hers, as his lips brushed against her ear, she knew. She was already too far gone. That night, Simone didn't come home until the early hours of the morning. Dwayne was awake when she slipped into their bed, the faint scent of another man's cologne still clinging to her skin. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. But as he lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, something inside him shifted. Simone thought she was playing a game. What she didn't realize was that Dwayne never lost. And when the time was right, he would remind her exactly who was in control. What started as a night of temptation would soon unravel into a deadly spiral of deceit, obsession, and murder. The sun was barely rising over Montego Bay when Simone awoke, her body still humming from the night before. She turned her head to see Dwayne beside her, his breathing slow and steady, but something about him felt off. His posture was too rigid, too controlled. He knew. Simone exhaled, pushing the thought aside. Dwayne was many things. Powerful, possessive, ruthless when necessary. But their rules had always been clear. Physical pleasure was allowed. Emotional attachment was forbidden. As long as she didn't let it become more than a fling, Dwayne had no reason to react. Or so she thought. Over the next few weeks, Simone and Andre's secret affair deepened. It started with stolen moments, quick meetings in private lounges, passionate kisses in the back seat of her luxury car. But soon it wasn't just about sex. Andre made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. With Dwayne, their marriage had become transactional, a partnership built on power and status. But with Andre it was raw, real. He touched her like he needed her, not like she was a possession to be flaunted. She began sneaking away more often, creating excuses to leave the house, slipping into hotel rooms where they could be alone. She told herself she was still in control, that this was just another thrill. But deep down, Simone knew this was more than lust. She was falling for him. Dwayne wasn't stupid. He had always been the master of the game, the one who dictated the rules. But Simone was getting sloppy. She was coming home late, her excuses growing thinner. She was distracted, her body next to his, but her mind somewhere else. Dwayne had always believed he and Simone had something unbreakable. Their open marriage worked because they chose it. But now, for the first time, it felt like Simone was choosing someone else. And Dwayne didn't share what was his. He decided it was time to act. One evening, Simone and Andre met at a secluded villa outside the city. It was their favorite hideaway, a place where they could exist without the weight of their secrets. Simone lay in Andre's arms, their bodies tangled beneath the sheets, when her phone buzzed. She grabbed it lazily, assuming it was a text from one of her boutique managers. But when she saw the name on the screen, her blood ran cold. Dwayne. Her heart pounded. She hadn't told him where she was, hadn't given him a reason to call. She let the phone ring, convincing herself he wouldn't suspect anything. But then another message popped up. I know where you are. Simone shot up, her breath hitching. No, he couldn't. Andre frowned. What's wrong? She didn't answer. Instead, she scrambled to grab her clothes, panic setting in. She had underestimated Dwayne. And now she was about to find out just how dangerous he could be. By the time Simone made it home, Dwayne was waiting in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. She barely stepped inside before he spoke, his voice calm. Too calm. Did you have fun? Simone hesitated. She had lied to Dwayne many times before, but she knew that tonight, it wouldn't work. Dwayne, He held up a hand, silencing her. I don't need excuses, Simone. I know. Her stomach clenched. Then what do you want? He stared at her, a slow smirk creeping onto his face. I want you to remember something, he said, his voice dark. No one crosses me and walks away unscathed. A chill ran down Simone's spine. She had played with fire for too long, and now she was about to burn. Simone's breath caught in her throat as she stared at Dwayne, his smirk lingering like a blade against her skin. His words echoed in her mind. No one crosses me and walks away unscathed. He knew. She had always thought she could keep her affair a secret, that she could indulge without consequence. But Dwayne was smarter than that. He always had been. The silence between them was suffocating. The ice in his whiskey glass clinked as he took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving her. Sit, he finally said, gesturing toward the couch. Simone hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to deny, to lie her way out. But the way Dwayne was watching her, like a lion cornering its prey, made it clear. She had no way out. Slowly, she lowered herself onto the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Dwayne leaned forward, placing his drink on the table. How long? Simone swallowed hard. Dwayne, please. How long? His voice was still calm, but there was an underlying menace in it. She hesitated, but lying now would only make things worse. A few weeks. His jaw tensed. A few weeks. He let the words hang in the air, as if testing their weight. And you thought I wouldn't find out? Simone clenched her fists. You have your own indulgences too. Dwayne chuckled, but there was no humor in it. Don't insult me, Simone. We had rules. No emotions. No secrets. His gaze darkened. And you broke both. She bit her lip. I didn't. You did, he interrupted. And now you're going to fix it. Simone frowned. Fix it? What do you mean? Dwayne stood, adjusting his cuffs. You're going to end it. Tonight. Panic flared in her chest. Dwayne, you're my wife. He cut in, his voice turning sharp. And you're going to remember exactly what that means. Simone's hands trembled. She had always known Dwayne was powerful, that he didn't tolerate disobedience. But there was something different in his eyes tonight, something dangerous. Tell him it's over, Dwayne continued. Tell him you made a mistake. Simone swallowed the lump in her throat. And if I don't? Dwayne's lips curled into a smile. But it wasn't warmth, it was warning. Then I'll handle it myself. A cold dread settled in her stomach, because she knew exactly what that meant. Simone left the house with her heart pounding against her ribs. She drove in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She had to end things with Andre, not because she wanted to, but because Dwayne would destroy him if she didn't. Her phone buzzed. Andre, can't stop thinking about you. Meet me tonight? A lump formed in her throat. He has no idea what's coming. She parked outside Andre's small apartment in downtown Montego Bay, the area a stark contrast to the luxurious world she and Dwayne lived in. When she knocked, Andre opened the door with a boyish grin, pulling her inside before she could even speak. I thought you were busy tonight, he murmured, pressing his lips against hers. Simone closed her eyes, savoring the warmth of his touch, because she knew it would be the last time. She pulled away, forcing herself to look at him. Andre, we need to talk. His smile faded. What's wrong? Simone inhaled deeply. We have to stop this. Andre frowned. What? She forced herself to say the words. It's over. His expression hardened. Why? Because of him. She looked away. It's complicated. Andre shook his head. You don't love him, Simone. I see the way you look at me. He stepped closer, his voice softer now. Don't do this. Tears burned at the edges of her eyes. I don't have a choice. Andre's jaw clenched. So what? You just go back to playing the perfect wife while he controls you. Simone's hands trembled. You don't understand, Andre. If I don't end this, he will. Andre's eyes darkened with realization. You think he'd hurt me? Simone exhaled shakily. I know he would. A tense silence filled the room. Then Andre took her hands in his. Come with me. Simone blinked. What? We leave, Simone. Right now. We go somewhere Dwayne can't reach us. Her heart raced. A part of her wanted to say yes, to run, to escape this life, to be with the man who made her feel alive. But deep down, she knew the truth. Dwayne wasn't just any man. He was a man who owned everything he touched. And no one escaped him. I can't, she whispered. Andre's face hardened. Then you're signing your own death sentence. Simone didn't have a chance to respond, because suddenly, the front door burst open. And standing in the doorway, face cold and unreadable, was Dwayne. Her breath caught in her throat. And in that moment she knew. The game was over. But the nightmare was just beginning. Andre tensed as Dwayne stepped inside, his presence suffocating the small apartment. Simone felt her pulse hammering in her throat. Dwayne's eyes flicked between them, his expression eerily calm. So this is the man worth betraying me for? Andre squared his shoulders. Simone's not your prisoner. Dwayne smirked. That's where you're wrong. Simone reached for Dwayne's arm. Please don't. In a flash, Dwayne pulled a gun from his jacket, aiming it at Andre. Stop! Simone cried, stepping between them. Dwayne's jaw tightened. Move, Simone. Andre's fists clenched. Be a man, Dwayne. You want to kill me? Do it while I'm looking at you. Dwayne exhaled slowly. Then, in one swift motion, he struck Andre across the face with the gun. Andre collapsed to the floor, blood dripping from his mouth. Simone dropped to her knees. Dwayne, please. Dwayne crouched beside her, gripping her chin. His voice was chillingly soft. You made a mistake, Simone. He stood, wiping his gun against his sleeve. Clean this up. Then, without another word, he walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. Simone sat frozen, her hands shaking as she pressed a cloth against Andre's bleeding lip. His eyes burned with anger, but he said nothing. We have to stop this, she whispered. Andre exhaled sharply. You think he's just going to let us go? Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know, but I can't lose you. Andre cupped her face gently. Then we run, before it's too late. Before Simone could answer, a wave of nausea hit her. She staggered to the bathroom, barely making it before vomiting. Andre followed, concern etched on his face. Simone, are you okay? She wiped her mouth, dread creeping into her chest. She hadn't missed a period. Her hands trembled as the realization sank in. She was pregnant. and she didn't know if the father was Andre or Dwayne. Simone sat on the cold bathroom floor, her mind spinning. Andre knelt beside her, his expression shifting from concern to realization. "You think?" he asked hesitantly. Simone swallowed hard. "I don't know." Andre ran a hand over his face. "If it's mine, Dwayne will kill us both." A chilling silence settled between them. They both knew Dwayne's possessiveness had no limits. If he found out Simone was pregnant, and worse, if the child wasn't his, there would be no escape. "We need to leave," Andre said firmly. Simone met his gaze, her heart pounding. "He'll find us. Then we make sure he never does." Simone wanted to believe him, but deep down, she knew the truth. Dwayne wasn't the kind of man who let things go. And if he suspected betrayal, blood would be spilled. Simone paced the small apartment, her mind racing. Andre sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes locked on her. "We don't have much time," he said. "Dwayne already suspects something." Simone hugged herself. "He told me to come home. If I don't, he'll come looking." Andre grabbed her hands. "Then we leave tonight, before he has the chance." She hesitated. Running from Dwayne wasn't just dangerous, it was nearly impossible. He had connections, money, and people willing to do his dirty work. "But where do we go?" she whispered. Andre squeezed her hands. "I have a friend in Negril. He can get us on a boat to Cuba. Once we're out of Jamaica, we disappear." Simone's heart pounded. "Leave everything behind?" Her phone buzzed again. "Dwayne." "Simone. Last warning." She looked up at Andre, fear in her eyes. "We have no choice," she whispered. Andre nodded. "Then we go. Now." They didn't realize Dwayne was already watching, and he wasn't going to let them get away alive. Simone stuffed a small bag with essentials, her hands trembling. Andre grabbed his keys, urgency in his every move. "We have to be quick," he whispered. As they stepped outside, a black SUV idled across the street. Simone's breath hitched. "Dwayne." Before they could react, the SUV's doors flew open. Two men in dark suits rushed toward them. "Run!" Andre shouted, gripping Simone's hand. They bolted down the alley, their feet pounding against the pavement. But Dwayne's men were faster. A strong arm yanked Simone backward. She screamed as one of the men pinned her against the wall. Andre turned back, fists swinging. He managed to land a punch before the second man slammed a gun against his head. Andre collapsed. Simone thrashed, but it was useless. The man holding her leaned in close. "Mr. Richards wants to see you." Terror gripped her chest. She knew this wasn't just about going home. Dwayne was about to make them pay. Simone's heart pounded as the men shoved her into the SUV. Andre lay unconscious beside her, blood trickling from his temple. Dwayne sat across from them, his face unreadable. He swirled a glass of rum in his hand before speaking. "You really thought you could leave me, Simone?" His voice was calm, too calm. Simone clenched her fists. "You don't own me." Dwayne chuckled, shaking his head. "That's where you're wrong." He leaned forward, his eyes dark. "And this," he gestured to Andre. "This is betrayal." Andre groaned, slowly regaining consciousness. Dwayne pulled a gun from his holster and placed it on his lap. "I should kill you both right now," he said smoothly. "But I'm a reasonable man." Simone's stomach twisted. She knew what was coming. "Tell me, Simone." Dwayne's eyes bore into hers. "Is the baby mine?" Her breath caught. Andre stiffened beside her. Lying was pointless. Dwayne would find out sooner or later. Simone swallowed hard. I don't know." Silence. Then, in a blur, Dwayne grabbed Andre by the collar and pressed the gun to his forehead. "Wrong answer." Simone gasped, her hands flying to Dwayne's arm. "Stop, please." Dwayne didn't flinch. The gun remained steady against Andre's forehead. Andre, despite the fear in his eyes, forced himself to stay calm. "Killing me won't change anything, Dwayne." Dwayne smirked. "It'll make me feel better." The silence in the SUV was suffocating. Simone's mind raced. If Dwayne pulled the trigger, there would be no turning back. "Dwayne," she whispered, desperation in her voice. I love you. His eyes flicked to her, searching for the lie. Please, don't do this. Something in her voice made him hesitate. Slowly, he lowered the gun, but his gaze remained sharp. You're coming home, Simone. He turned to his men. Take care of him. Simone's blood ran cold. No! A fist slammed into Andre's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Another hit to the head and he collapsed. Simone screamed as the SUV sped away, leaving Andre lying motionless in the alley. She wasn't just trapped. She was owned. Dwayne locked Simone inside their Montego Bay mansion, surrounding her with guards. No phone, no contact, just isolation. You will carry my child, he told her. And you will forget about him. Simone spent days staring out the window, wondering if Andre was alive. But she had no way to find out. Then one night, as she lay in bed, she heard something outside. A whisper through the darkness. Simone. Her heart leapt. Andre. He had come back for her. Simone pressed her hand against the window, her breath catching. Andre stood in the shadows near the back gate, bruised but alive. We have to go now, he whispered. Simone glanced at the guards pacing the property. It's impossible. Andre's jaw tightened. Then we make it possible. Simone's mind spun. There was only one way out. I'll distract Dwayne, she whispered. You wait for my signal. Andre hesitated, then nodded. Simone turned toward the door. If this went wrong, Dwayne wouldn't just kill them. He'd make them suffer first. Simone found Dwayne in his office, sipping whiskey. She forced a shaky smile. Can we talk? Dwayne looked up, suspicious but intrigued. Go on. Simone stepped closer, resting a hand on his chest. I want this to work, she whispered. Dwayne smirked. Now you understand. She leaned in, then grabbed the gun from his holster. Before he could react, she aimed at his leg and pulled the trigger. Dwayne screamed as he collapsed. Simone sprinted for the door, her heart pounding. Andre was already there, knocking out a guard. Let's go, he yelled. Gunshots rang behind them. Dwayne's men were coming. But Simone and Andre were already running for their lives. They stole a car, speeding toward Negril, hoping to reach the boat waiting for them. But Dwayne wasn't done. At the last checkpoint before the dock, headlights appeared behind them. Black SUVs. Simone's stomach dropped. He found us. Andre gripped the wheel. Hold on. Tires screeched as he swerved onto a back road. Bullets shattered the rear windshield. Then bam, a truck appeared out of nowhere. Andre slammed the brakes, but it was too late. Metal crunched. The car spun. Everything went black. Simone woke to the taste of blood. The wreckage surrounded her. Andre was slumped over the wheel. She tried to shake him. Andre, wake up. But he didn't move. The SUV doors opened. Dwayne stepped out, limping from his wound, gun in hand. You just don't learn, do you? He sneered. Simone's body shook with rage and terror. You're a monster. Dwayne tilted his head. I gave you everything, Simone. He aimed the gun at her and fired. Pain exploded in Simone's stomach. She gasped, her hands pressing against the growing pool of blood. Dwayne watched, emotionless. You were mine. Her vision blurred. The world faded. And then bang. A gunshot echoed. Dwayne staggered. His eyes widened in shock. Andre, barely alive, had fired the last bullet. Dwayne collapsed, choking on his own blood. Simone reached for Andre, but darkness swallowed her. The newspapers called it the Montego Bay bloodbath. Dwayne Richards was dead. Simone was found barely alive and rushed to the hospital. Andre didn't make it. She woke up days later, heartbroken, alone. Her baby, gone. The dream of escape had turned into a nightmare. Montego Bay had once been paradise. Now it was just a graveyard of lost love and bloody betrayals.